Caitlin Sandell, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Kuza.
I'm Joseph. I'm the co-founder at Digitize Mtaani, and I'm part of the team that manages social media at Kuza.
Yes. And so what we're going to talk about today is the importance of being comfortable of spending money as a business owner and why this is important. And it just very well worked out because we were having a conversation. We'll get into that later. So why we're having this conversation is that, there's no possible way for you as a business owner to not spend money in your business. And I know for a lot of people, we can have like a lot of anxiety around managing our expenses and spending money of the business because there's always that fear of like, well, is there going to be enough money? Is more money going to come in? What if it doesn't work out? It's just your mind going crazy. So we need to start to feel very comfortable as business owners in spending money. And how do we identify like good expenses for us to spend money on? And everything in business is a strategy, including how you spend money. But we're going to focus a little bit more today on the emotional side of that because everything at the end of the day just gets down into your emotions and what you have the capacity to handle. So how did we get here? Before we were recording today, Lydia, who's behind the camera right now, and Joseph and I were having a conversation, and we were looking over their ads that they've posted on social media. And I noticed that it said it was completed, but when you looked at like the amount that was like budgeted versus what was actually spent, it kept getting cut short. I was like, why is this what's happening? And then it came out that, Joseph, why was it happening?
It came out that every time I stop the ads midway through, that I don't let them go through all the way to the end. So we started questioning as to why is this happening. This got me here to this seat talking about my emotional aspect of business and how I handle the ads for the business.
Yes, and so first, so when we were looking at the ads, the total ad spend budgeted, like on average, it's around how much?
It was around 400 bob for the particular ad.
Yes, okay, you guys, 400 shilling. That 400 shilling is not going to sink your business, right? It's not like he had budgeted 400,000. It was 400. So then I was like, why are you stopping ads at like 100 when only like 100 bob has been spent?
So
why?
I really felt that for this particular ad that the targeting was wrong. The message and the audience were not going to speak to one another. So I thought, okay, I really need to stop this. And as we had the conversation with Caitlin, I realized, I think this was pretty much wrong because at 100 bob is where I stopped the ad. I realized that, well, I've not used any metric at all. I just impulsively, I stopped the ad. So I realized that I did not have enough evidence for me to stop the ad.
And then that led me to want to understand more, like, can you take us to that exact moment when you saw that, 100 bob had been spent? Like, what was the situation around it? Was it like at nighttime? Was it in the middle of the night? Was it in the daytime? Did you just open up the ads? Like, tell us the story around seeing this 100 bob being spent and be like, no! Tell us.
Okay, I had created the creative the previous day, put it out there. It was doing okay-ish, not really well, okay-ish. So then I came in the morning and I found that Lydia had placed an ad on the particular piece, and I was like, oh, this is really bad. What's the targeting? I saw the targeting and I said, okay, I think this is bad. We have already spent 100 bob and we are getting nothing out of it. I said, okay, we need to stop this immediately. So I stopped the ad. Lydia told her, we need to stop this ad. It's not doing well. It's not doing as we would desire it to do. So I stopped it, and that was that. And well, it's not the first time I've done it. I'm guilty of that. I've not done it only one time. I think it's a knee-jerk reaction on my end. Something that I've come to learn after having a conversation that we had behind the camera. You're not going to see that, unfortunately.
What did it feel like when you saw the 100 shilling and then you started to have this like narrative, obviously telling you a bunch of these things? Like, can you remember what the feeling felt like and where you felt it in your body?
Mild panic, then the thought of, oh my god, we are failing. This one is going to fail and it's going to fail really bad. The exact feeling was, we are going to waste this 400 bob and we need to make the best out of it. So that was the feeling, especially because the creative was just made of stock footage. So I was thinking, no, we cannot do this. We cannot have this particular one running ads.
Yeah. And you know, it's really stressful as business owners, I think too, especially when you are working within a limited budget, that you do obviously want every single shilling to count. But also, you know, as we were talking, like the only way to learn though is to also like make mistakes. And I think this is actually a really good example of like mitigated risk taking, where you guys are taking risks on ads not being as effective as you want them to be, but you're doing it within a budget that's like affordable,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you guys can afford to waste 400 bob, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even say it's wasted because honestly, it was not like they got 0 views. He is a little dramatic, and that's fine. We all can be a bit dramatic when we're in that like catastrophizing headspace. But you guys had like with 100 shilling, you guys had like 387
Yeah.
reach?
The reach was okay for profile visits, but you know, the skepticism went into my head and the narrative was wrong. I didn't see the numbers from that perspective. Like the 100 shilling in relation to a reach of 400, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
And so this is like, you know, there's so much that goes into spending money. And again, I think so much of everything is rooted in your emotional capacity, where it's like you literally in the moment did actually see like 0. Look in their ad account, like there's no 0 in there. Like this is why we need to like, I think, start to reframe our narrative around spending money and like why we're spending money and the intention behind spending money and all of this, where it's like we're going to have, well, first of all, you're gonna waste money as a business owner because that's just how we learn. As long as you're learning, that things aren't actually wasted. And so then I guess also, Joseph, for you, like in general in regards to spending money, how does it like make you feel? What do you like to spend money on?
I like spending my money on experiences, really, and visiting places, getting new experiences. That's why I spend most of my money, as opposed to maybe to buying things, buying a nice piece of shoe or something. I prefer the experiences.
Okay. And then when do you feel stressed around spending money?
At any moment where I get this thought, I'm going to waste money, I'm not going to get the desired result out of the investment. Yeah.
Do you have, like, for that Instagram post, did you even have a desired result in your head? Or was it just like, it just wasn't good enough?
Exactly.
Yes, okay. So yeah, that's like also a really good example of like our inner critic.
Yeah.
And just being so tough on yourself that it's like super unrealistic. Like obviously we talked a little bit about this, like perfectionism, and no one's perfect and no one can be perfect, and if anybody says they're perfect, they're usually far from perfect and like even more delusional. I do think in a lot of ways, like business and going into business for yourself can be like a very transcendental experience, because you really just come face to face with yourself and like a lot of the fears that like you have, right? And so essentially we just need to work, and this is like a collective we, not just, yeah, this is collective, but getting really comfortable on spending money, especially on our business, and with the intention of it, like, as long as I can learn from this, it's like a win.
Yeah.
And so what do you think, because I know you're gonna have that like knee-jerk reaction again,
Yeah.
because it's just programming, but we can change our programming, but like what do you think, like what are you gonna do now? Instead, like when that kind of like catastrophizing mentality like creeps in, what are you gonna try and do?
I now have to pause, because the next time this happens, probably I'm looking at another ad and I'm saying, oh, you're about to waste money on this. I have to pause because I'll be aware that this situation will trigger me to think a particular way. I'll have to practice really to be able to pause and be able to know that I'm not wasting money, I'm learning from this. So I have to practice that and yeah, I think that will be good if I am able to get that into my system and recondition my thought processes in my subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So business owners, we also want to challenge you guys to see, where do you feel stressed around spending money? Do you have any of these same narratives running through your head that Joseph does? Because I'm assuming most likely yes. And really trying to understand like where that narrative is actually rooted in, and really start to reframe your experience with spending money, because as much as we want to feel good when we earn, we also want to feel good when we spend.
Which does not happen very often.
No, there's a lot of guilt with spending money. So we'll talk more about kind of how you can start to facilitate feelings around like feeling good. So I mean, something that I do and that like I was also telling Joseph is, usually when we have those like crazy feelings of anxiety, it's not a good time to make a decision. Because you're just gonna be like, your judgment is clouded.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the same way you thinking that you literally had like 0 impact on that post, which literally was not true. Like, you have the data to show you that wasn't true.
Yeah.
And so when we have these like really tight feelings, like whether it's in like our chest or in our stomach, when your head is going crazy, like running 1,000,000 miles a minute, it's usually not the best time to make a decision. And if you can take a couple of breaths and distance yourself from between like the emotion and then your reaction to that emotion, that's usually where we can kind of come from a place of more like grounded decision making. And something that I follow is that I really try to not spend money if I don't feel good in that moment when spending money. So like, for example, I went to Toy Market with some friends and we were looking for like home goods. So like sheets, towels, a duvet. I wanted some rugs. And obviously you guys understand Mzungu pricing, so people already fuck with me like that. But we were in this guy's shop and he had really nice rugs. But I don't know, he was just weird, and he was like giving us weird vibes. He was like making us having to go withdraw money. I'm also like a pretty lazy consumer. Like, don't make me jump through hoops to give you money, bro. I could tell he was charging me more than I wanted to pay, so I like just, you know, I was like, no, I'm not gonna pay right now. And then we finished, like, did the rest of the shopping, and then we stopped by his stall on the way out, and funnily enough, his prices changed. And I told him, I was like, I want to buy this, but I'm not gonna go withdraw cash and give it to you, so you need to find a way for me to send you money. So yeah, he was like, agreed to that, and then I ended up getting the price that I wanted. And in that moment, even before he told me I could do all of those things, I just already internally felt better. And so if I don't feel good about spending money, like even if it's just like, I may not buy that thing today, but I'll come back tomorrow, or maybe it's like a 5-minute thing, or maybe it's like an hour thing, or maybe I just try to not spend money if I don't feel good internally. Because usually that feeling somehow follows the whole transaction. And I've heard just stories like people maybe, I don't know, whether it's like buying something and they knew they didn't feel good about it, and then that thing ended up breaking, or, you know, like, I don't know. I just do think that the feeling is very important in like what we're doing, and it can really like change the intention and kind of the energetic space of like a purchase or of an expense. It is just so important as business owners that we feel good spending money and that we're comfortable to spend money, because the goals that you have are going to require a lot of expenses. Unless you want to stay small, which is also fine. But even at that point, you're still going to require expenses, and you really want to feel good about spending money in a responsible way, obviously, right? Like, you're not going to just go spend money on crazy shit, but yeah, like 400 shilling, let it run.
Yeah, true. So it's like the energy follows the transaction of what you're doing.
Yeah, and usually, I mean, I just feel like us as the humans, like, we have our intuition, and that's like a very special thing that we have and that even like animals have, you know?
Yeah.
That intuition is really there to like protect us and guide us. And if you think about like a time where your like gut had told you something, but you didn't listen, and then you were right. That usually happens like all the time.
All the time.
I've never had an experience where my gut told me something and it was wrong.
Yeah, all the time. The regret follows later. Once everything has gone down, and I knew this. I shouldn't have made maybe a particular decision. But like you said earlier on, before we were on camera, you said that there is the confusion where you're not able to differentiate between your instinct and the fear and everything in between. All the feelings are all mixed up, so you're confused. You don't know, is this the right thing? And always probably the fear always wins because you love yourself, so you're trying to protect yourself, preventing the waste. And it's something that I think we all have to learn about. I have to learn about it because it's a bad decision I made on that day.
Well, I don't even think it's a bad decision. I think it's more something that gives you like more insight into yourself. Yeah, I don't really like the labels like good and bad, but that's like a conversation for another day. But I don't think it was a bad decision. I think it was more like an interesting one because, it's like, I mean, and also in this economy, like what can 400 shilling even get you anymore?
Yeah, I don't know,
And for you guys, I mean, I know it can get you somewhere, but and so I just think like when we can start to look at our like own behaviors around spending money and the feelings that we have, it can show us a lot. And as we talked about, like the comfort that you have as a business owner of spending money is going to like directly impact like your growth in your business because you just have to spend money in business. Like the whole thing about you need to spend money to make money.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that also doesn't mean just spend money crazily and that means you're going to make money. No, you need to be strategic about how you spend money. But yes, we do need to get comfortable. Also, with just like, it's okay that you make a mistake or like, it's not perfect because nothing's perfect. I had that problem when we first started Kuza actually because I wanted our product to be like perfect, whatever that means. And I learned very quickly how delusional I was. It's like we spent a fair amount of money and a fair amount of time building this product, and then when we went into beta, we were literally in beta for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we just changed everything.
Yeah. And in the 2 weeks, have you maybe learned anything about
Oh yeah, we learned a lot, but it was just like, that, like, looking back on things, I can see where I like made mistakes that could have saved us money, but the thing is like I didn't have that knowledge at that time in that moment, so there actually wasn't anything I could have done.
Yeah.
Because I also think that we're all just doing our best at all times.
Yeah.
But because I've moved through that experience and I've learned, I now won't make that mistake again because I like also like look back and review things and I'm like, oh wow, if I were to do this again and start all the way over, this is actually what I would do different now. But you only have that knowledge if you like fuck up, to be honest. And like
you have to create some space for failure in there because if you were to build another fintech at this moment, you will start at level 2, not at level 1 where you were when starting Kuza.
I think so. And so it's like also kind of like a blessing for us to make mistakes, especially if we are being curious around our mistakes and learning. Then it's that is literally how you get better. And how you can also like better serve your own client base, right? Like you guys make the mistakes so that they don't have to.
That's what we sell them. We make the mistakes so that you don't have to.
Exactly.
You don't have to make the mistakes again.
Exactly. So business owners, if you're stressed around spending money, you're not alone, and we want you to start to feel a little bit more comfortable around spending money. If you want to share any of your stress stories about spending money, feel free to drop them in the comments below. We're all in good company. I think every single person in this planet who has the capability to spend, not a baby obviously, but has had experience around stressful spending money. And thank you, Joseph, for being so vulnerable and sharing your own stress and anxiety around spending money. We appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next time.